So I'm doing a different format today. I'm doing a presentation style of this particular topic. So as I said in my other videos about Venus, Venus is not just about love. I'm going to talk about this aspect of it. All right, because Venus is what we attract or what we're attracted to. So sometimes it's not just love, it's partnership, it's money, things like that. But I'm talking about the aspect of how Venus affects our relationships today. Even though we know that Venus has multi-layers to it and there's other angles we could take. If you clicked on this video, you might be asking yourself these questions, or at some point in your life, you've asked yourself these questions. There might have been someone and you're saying, wow, if this person would only do this one thing, we could be in a relationship. You can, sometimes ask yourself, wow, this person is nice and they're good and they do this and they do that for me, but there's chemistry lacking or there's something that's stopping you. Now, for the most part, we can sometimes answer these questions through astrology. And some people have a different perspective and they might answer these questions through psychology. I do happen to believe that there's a great deal of psychology in astrology. Today, we're taking more of the astrological approach to talk about relationships, okay? So we're asking ourselves, is love enough if I want to be with someone? Is that all it takes? Also, I do have 2 Venus videos up right now as well. Venus through the houses. What might your experience be in love based on what house it's in, right? Because a Venus in the first house person is going to be more expressive and it's going to be more about them. A Venus in the 7th house person might be more partnership, right? So it's really important to know where your Venus house placement is using your birth chart information, and then also Venus through the signs. So if you don't have your birth chart information or you're trying to figure out what time you were born, you can at least look up your Venus sign and get some information as well. I would definitely put these 2 together, watch both videos to really understand how this relates to you. So some people might ask themselves, will this video tell me more about me? Like, what about my relationship? Well, I think anytime I do a video, I try to educate people. I'm not just talking about just my experiences, but I really want to help people understand the information, the knowledge, the research behind astrology. Astrology is not just your personal opinions, right? So hopefully you learn something new that you can take into your relationships. But also, I just want to say this analogy. If you're sick, and we've all been sick before, and we're Googling things, right? Because we're trying to figure out what's wrong with us. And we sometimes we find a list of things and we're like, oh, I think this is what it is. But we really don't know until we go to the doctor. We really don't know. Right? We can't assume if we take this medicine, it's going to work for us. We have to go get a prescription. Same thing with astrology, right? Those who want more in-depth information and about self-improvement and what you need to personally do, you should probably get a birth chart reading, and I have information below on my personal services, but that is just something in your lifetime I do suggest doing. Yes. So Venus, as I said before, today we're talking about the love aspect of it. And it's not just love. With Venus, it's about what we attract. And for the most part, attraction and relationships, all of that is intertwined. So beauty, love, harmony, possessions, values, money, even friendship. Your Venus sign can also sometimes, because remember, Venus can be simply harmony, partnership, not just marriage. Venus can help you understand who might be attracted to you as a friend as well. Like, what types of people do you attract to you? I talk about that a little bit more in my Venus house video. And it's relaxed, it's calm. Venus is the opposite of Mars, right? So if we're thinking about personality types, a person ruled by Mars is going to be very different in temperament than a person ruled by Libra. All of us have Venus somewhere in our birth chart, so depending on where Venus is in our chart, it's going to play out differently. Venus rules the signs of Taurus and Libra, is in detriment in Scorpio and Taurus. Scorpio and Aries is in detriment. Notice that Scorpio and Aries are the opposite signs of Taurus and Libra. So that means Venus is in its natural expression in Taurus and Libra. But when we put it in the opposite signs of those signs, it's now detriment. It's hard for Venus to be relaxed because Scorpio is so intense. It's hard for things to flow naturally when Venus is in Aries because Aries is so impulsive about love. And so it's not a natural form of the energy. That's all that means. Detriment doesn't mean these people can't find love or it's going to be always a challenge, but it means that Venus doesn't flow as easily as it does in these 2 signs here. It's exalted in Pisces and in fall in Virgo. Pisces and Virgo are also opposite signs of each other. So exalted meaning Venus works pretty well in Pisces because Pisces is also a calm, relaxed, introspective, more so sign. It's ruled by Neptune. So Venus in Pisces, it's kind of a trade-off. They understand their energy better. Virgo's ruled by Mercury, which is about thinking and logic. And so that's why Venus in Virgo is not a natural, expression. I'm not going to read necessarily every single slide word for word. My hope is that you're either pausing this video or watching it again, or kind of taking what you need and, move on. All right. People think social media will tell you who to love. Okay. Here's the thing with social media. Social media is a great outlet to learn new things. I use social media, especially to talk about astrology. At the same time, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube even. I'm on YouTube right now. They're great outlets. You do have to watch who you're getting your information from, right? Because that's why I say you should consult astrologers, people who study this, people who are non-biased to really understand you better. If you're watching someone who's bashing every sign, if you're watching a person who's only using astrology to talk about themselves and how great they are, that's probably not somebody that can actually analyze your chart, because they're biased. They don't respect your energy, or they don't respect energy of all the signs. So that's why I said, like, you really have to, it's cool and funny sometimes to look at memes or things like that. But sometimes you also, if you're trying to be serious about this, know that social media is not going to tell you who you are. You need to consult someone who has either this, this type of information. Same sign equals harmony. Not necessarily. Same Venus sign does not necessarily equal harmony. Okay. So it's very important that you understand. We have to now start to look at astrology in its totality. A Venus sign, a Sun sign, a Mercury sign, all of that is going to give you the basics. It's going to tell you the what, not how, right? It's going to tell you what something might be, not how it's going to work, what actually motivates this particular placement. Disclaimer, any relationship can work if the person does their part. I really want to put that out there. If two people have completely different placements and they want the relationship to work, they're going to work on it. And at the end of the day, we cannot blame our actions or inaction on our chart. We have free will. Yes, our chart might tell a certain potential we have in certain areas, but it's up to us and whoever we're in a relationship with to really make it work. So no, I don't want to say that I'm going to look at two people's charts and say, you can't make it work. What I'm going to tell you is the challenges that might come up and what each person might have to do. Relationships. So, just to add on, if a person loves you the way you want to be loved, but there's other aspects of the relationship you don't like, you have to figure out what you want to do, right? If you and this person are attracted to each other and you both give each other what each other needs, but that person's lifestyle is not what you like, that person's occupation is not what you like, that person might be doing something you disapprove of, you have to figure out what's more important, the relationship or the person's lifestyle. That is definitely a personal decision. Also, in addition to astrology, I really feel like you have to use your experience to indicate what someone is likely to do. You can look at someone's chart all day long. You're falling in love with the chart, not the person, right? Or what you think, that you have no idea how somebody's placements are going to play out. See what I'm saying? You have no idea. You could say, oh, this person's a Venus in Libra, but then their Venus is square their Mars, which is going to mean there's some type of conflict and challenge within maybe even their sexual prowess, in their sexuality, in the way in which they view sexuality, right? Maybe they have a very different understanding of that than you. Maybe they're more open-minded than you are. That can sometimes, because Mars is Mars. Let's just be honest here. If you're on this site, my site, hopefully you're an adult. Mars is Mars. So that's what I'm saying. You have to really look at that in that type of aspect. Don't fall in love with the chart, fall in love with the person, and really look at the person's actions, because a chart can play out in many different ways. Okay? All right. So briefly, I want to talk about this. Again, in this video, I'm not going over every single thing. I'm hoping that you're pausing or you're just paying attention to the things that you think are important. So when we look at Venus, we have to look at this. So if your Venus is conjunct someone else's, that means you have the same Venus sign. Venus in Pisces, Venus in Leo. You both have the same sign. It's a powerful connection. You feel at home with this person. You don't have to explain how you love or what you love or what. You kind of have the same understanding, the same value on the things that you appreciate. Whereas a Venus opposition is opposite sign. So Venus in Aries, Venus in Libra, Venus in Taurus, Venus in Scorpio, Venus in Virgo, Venus in Pisces. The interesting thing about opposite sign relationships are that though they are opposites, they can teach us something about ourselves. So just like we can't have the sun without the moon, right? We can't have certain things without the other. We can't have earth without water. We can't have like earth, like water provides moisture to the earth, so that we're not always in a drought, right? Just like air and fire. Well, in order to spread, fire needs air, right? Things of that nature. So when we're thinking about this, opposite signs can work actually because there's some commonality, even though these signs seem different. Cancer and Capricorn, we have water and we have earth. So it's more nurturing, this more paternal energy with Capricorn, both this value of family, the sanctity of family, of building and providing and nurturing. They can really balance each other out. So that's what opposition signs are usually about. Venus and semi-sextiles, that's one sign apart. Different, but can be favorable if they tap into what they have in common. Like, for instance, Aries and Taurus placements are both very transparent. If a Venus and Aries and Taurus person, they're usually going to be both very direct about what they want. It's not a game play. We're not playing games with Aries and Taurus, right? Though they're very different signs, we're not playing games. It's more of a transparency that they both have, right? Virgo and Libra have a verbal connection. So though they might seem like different signs, they can bond over that. Now, when we get to a sextile, that's usually two signs apart, okay? And so it can be somewhat harmonious, right? Because now we are balancing the elements. We have fire and air. We know that fire and air usually go together, and earth and water go together. And so now we have a reciprocal kind of relationship happening, okay? So that's what, if your Venus is in any of these signs and your partners, now we kind of have some type of reciprocation happening, mostly harmonious, but we're learning something from each other. We have something that is similar, right? There's something that we can provide and give to one another. Venus trine, typically it's harmonious. It's shared understanding. It's tolerance. So whereas this is more of a base instinct, I get you type of thing. This is more so, hey, we're different. Let's put this together. Let's figure it out. This is more, let's balance each other out. Okay. And so we look here, these are typically 4 signs apart. Now, obviously, Aries and Sagittarius are not 4 signs apart, but see how it starts with Aries. Aries is 4 signs from Leo, and then Leo is 4 signs from Sag. And the same goes on for all the other signs. The other elements, right? And so it creates this shared energy between the elements of we're different, but I understand you because I have the same element. I have the same base instinct. We're fire, we're about action, right? This relationship, these fire people are like, we understand that we need to show each other we love each other. We need to do something. When you have these water people, there's this understanding that, hey, emotions matter. Feelings matter. We're not going to shy away from feelings. Whereas if someone's a Venus water, and their Venus is in Virgo, there might be a different type of understanding. But if it's a Venus in Cancer, Venus in Virgo, it might work a little bit better than, let's say, we have a Venus in Cancer with a Venus in Aries type of situation. All right. Then we also, down here we have squares. Now, squares are where we really see the challenges, okay? Oppositions can balance each other out because they are typically, there's some similarity shared there. This is where you might see the most disagreement, discord in a relationship. That does not mean a relationship should be, not taken for what it is. Sorry if this is a little bit disjointed. Libra, it should say Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer, right? So Libra sounds apart from them. So, this is where we'll see, okay, if you're a Venus in Leo, well, these signs are also fixed signs. So you'll notice here the squares are between the signs that are part of the same modality. So Aries is cardinal, Cancer is cardinal, Capricorn is cardinal. Cardinal, everybody thinks they have direction. So there's where you have conflict. You have an Aries who's like, hey, let's just do this thing. Let's just get married tomorrow. And then you have the Venus and Capricorn who's like, whoa, slow down. I have a 5-year plan. We need to talk about this, right? There's where they have a very vastly different understanding of how to they value, what they appreciate. right? So that's going to show a different way. Aquarius squaring Taurus and Scorpio. Taurus and Scorpio are opposite signs. Together, Taurus and Scorpio both need that type of, now, foundational energy is Taurus. In-depth energy is Scorpio, but at the same time, they both need something they feel is theirs. Taurus, I have, right? Scorpio energy is about control a little bit, right? We have Mars and Pluto ruling Scorpio. Aquarius is free thinking, free roaming. So Venus and Aquarius person is like, no. Like we're gonna explore. Relationship doesn't have to be us just tying ourselves down. That's what's going to happen there. And so that's why you're going to have a different energy. That again, any relationship can work if the people want it to work. And Kunks is 5 signs apart. I didn't write all these down, but it basically you can count forwards and backwards, 5 signs away, 5 signs away, 5 signs behind. And it basically means the energy is kind of awkward. It doesn't easily fit together. It's not the same as the square is like a challenge. Square is like, this feels forced. This one is more, it just feels a little awkward, feels a little off. It needs a little bit more to it in order for it to feel right. That might be the type of people who are like, this person's nice, but it doesn't feel right. It's not that same chemistry that you might have with that conjunct or that opposition. All right. What aspects do they matter? So an aspect, it's basically, so in a chart, specific amount of degrees between planets can create aspects. These aspects can be harmonious. These aspects can be challenges, right? And so in an individual, let me give you an example. This is where we have to look at someone's whole chart. That's why I tell people, start with the general definition of everything, and then we work towards deeper. Or if you're a person who's interested in astrology, get your basic information and get an astrologer to interpret it for you. So an example could be Venus rules Libra. So that might be a positive indicator, right? But let's say that person has a very difficult, disposition or connection to their Saturn. All right. And then this person, though they have a very they have an open mind to partnership. Like they're not someone who's like afraid of partnership. Not, a lot of people these days like to pretend they have no feelings, right? That's the cool thing now. I have no feelings. People are either overly dramatic about their relationships or like they're savage. They don't care about anyone and only worried about themselves. But this person has this partnership, but they have some unresolved issues with control. Because their Venus is square Saturn. Saturn is control, it's responsibility. Right? So this person could have issues surrounding love. They love being in a partnership, but there's some underlying issues. Now, sometimes Venus square Saturn can have something to do with parents, particularly the father. Excuse me. Because Saturn can sometimes represent the paternal figure. So that's an example. And so favorable, I'm not going to read through all of these, but these are examples of favorable Venus aspects. If a person that you're in a relationship with has Venus conjunct Sun, open disposition, Venus conjunct Uranus, they might stand out in some way, be a striking beauty or some sort. An unfavorable Venus might be Venus square Sun, difficulty expressing oneself in interpersonal relationships, allows others to outshine them, might have some confidence issues. So you also can use this same idea when you are looking at your chart and another person's chart. If your Venus is opposing their Mars, what does that mean? Right? If your Venus squares their Sun, what does that mean? So that's what I mean by you have to get these things interpreted, your relationship or your birth chart interpreted, so that you can really understand how this plays out for you. And also when you get into relationships, we can see how these energies flow with another person. All right, so let me get into some examples, okay? So, again, there's an assumption that if I have the same sign as someone else, it's going to work. And that's not, now what's going to happen is when you have the same energy, you understand that energy. It doesn't take as much to understand that energy, right? So let's look here. So A woman and man both have Venus in Capricorn. They are attracted to each other's sense of ambition and conservative attitudes about partnership because Venus in Capricorn tends to love ambition. Venus is also what we value. So Venus is in Capricorn. They both have this great understanding of ambition and conservative attitudes about partnership. Okay? So at first it appears they have the same traditional outlook, and they're both like, yes, we both understand each other. Let's say his Venus is in the first house. If his Venus is in the first house, okay, he might struggle with wanting his relationship to be public, or he might want it to be public. He might also want her to put him first. Venus in the first house. Venus is about the self, baby. Not the self, I'm sorry. The first house is about the self. So Venus in the first house can look good at first because they will show their partner. They typically will be like, look, this partner is, an extension of me. Sometimes there can be a little bit of me within the Venus in the first house. Now, this person might be a good provider, and he might want a stay-at-home wife. He wants to be seen as a power couple with her by his side. Her North Node is in Sagittarius. Her spiritual goal is to explore and find purpose and not remain stationary. Because if someone has a North Node in Sagittarius, they need to travel, they need to learn truth, they need to study, they need to never stop learning. They need to spread the awareness of what they learn. They need to be on a life journey. His North Node is in Taurus. So now we have some more Earth energy, meaning for him, he likes stability. He might not be going to go travel over the world. Maybe. I'm not saying you can't do that if you're a North Node in Taurus. I'm saying he might be saying, and if his North Node in Taurus in the second house, he needs stability, he needs predictability, and he's not trying to go outside the norms of what he's comfortable doing. So, her Venus is in Capricorn in the 11th house. She's going to now be tied to causes, social causes, friendships, groups. So she can't just give up her whole life for him because that's not in her chart. Now, she can do it. She can. Let me get to that in a moment. She could do it, but let's see what happens. She's very loyal, but she doesn't want to put all her all in a relationship, and he views her as detached, right? He might be the type, well, my ex-girlfriend used to do this. Why can't you do this? What do you mean you don't want to be a power couple? What do you mean you're going to do this? I have a dinner party at my work. You need to come with me. Are they compatible? If one person gives too much, will they be able to activate their North Node? No. But if these two people wanted to make it work, they could. You can't stifle someone's spiritual needs. Just like she can't stifle his needs, right? If his North Node is about having stability, his North Node is about creating a foundation for himself where he can feel safe and structured. She can't disrupt that either. So that's what I mean. People in a partnership have to learn to let each other do what they're meant to do, as long as it doesn't, negatively impact their relationship. Here's another example. Two people have Venus in Libra and Venus in Gemini, which means they trine, right? So remember I said a trine, same element. So they're attracted at first by how free spirit and open one another appear. So Venus in Libra is this concept of partnership. Open, I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to relate to you. Venus in Gemini is I'm free spirited and I love conversation. Venus in Gemini needs mental stimulation, and Libra can give them that. So they first meet and they have that. They really value those things about each other. Over time, the greatest barrier are communication issues. How can that be? Libra and Gemini are both air signs. How could this happen? I'm going to tell you how. So, if a Venus and Libra person has a Moon in Virgo and a Mercury in Scorpio, they're way more private than you might think they would be. Because we know Libras can be the social butterfly. It's like Leo in a way. At the same time, Moon and Virgo person is private. They need to protect their feelings. They are not always comfortable with sharing their feelings, right? Whereas if the Venus and the Gemini person has a Moon in Libra and a Mercury in Gemini, the Mercury and Gemini person wants to talk about everything. And the Moon and Libra in them, they want partnership. But the Moon and Virgo person is maybe a little bit more protected. And so it might feel sometimes that Moon and Virgo person is not giving into the partnership, even though they are a Venus and Libra as well. Again, I would have to look at these people's house placements to go more in depth. One partner would feel like, hey, we need to communicate better. I'm laying everything out on the table. Because remember, the Venus and Gemini person has their Venus conjunct their Mercury because they're both in Gemini. other person has some Virgo and Scorpio energy, so there's a protective element to that person where they might not easily trust. So again, it could work. They would have to understand each other better. We cannot just say Venus and Libra, Venus and Gemini means you're going to have a perfect relationship. That is what I'm trying to help people understand. Okay, look at this. Why Venus isn't the only thing that counts. In synastry, we have to take everything into account. If two people have complementary Venus signs, that conjunct, for instance, does that mean perfect harmony? As I said before, not necessarily. Okay? These two people here, let's play this game. Venus and Taurus. First of all, if I have Venus in Cancer and I have a Sun in Aries person, they're already squared. So this is already not a very easy energy exchange. In persona, they're different. There's a more sensitive, nurturing, relating to others through feelings, authentic type of care type of person. Again, the sun sign is not the ascendant. I'm not even talking about the rising in these videos. In this video, we have a Sun in Aries, about self. So off the bat, the sun sign square. Moon in Leo, Moon in Taurus. This person needs way more attention than this person in the relationship, and that can work. Especially, this person's Moon in Taurus. So this person's Moon conjuncts this person's Venus, Mars in Leo, Mercury in Cancer. So the way they communicate is going to be very different as well. Because Mercury in Cancer is more about feeling. It is more about talking about what they care about, not what needs to be talked about. And Mercury in Gemini is just an open array of everything needs to be talked about. Everything needs to be explored when we're talking Mercury in Gemini. And sometimes Mercury in Gemini is going to say things they don't need to say, especially if they have that Sun in Aries. So this person is going to kind of say things that they might not need to say. And this person, Moon in Leo, the Moon in Leo, they're generous, but they need a certain level of acknowledgement. They need a certain level of attention. That Moon in Taurus needs to feel safe and secure. Moon in Taurus doesn't like to go outside its comfort zone. So if it doesn't feel like giving you compliments, it's not going to give you compliments. And then we get down, so their Venus and Taurus match, right? Then there are Mars and Leo. Leo and Capricorn. Well, Leo and Capricorn's energy together kind of can create that kind of awkwardness, right? So Leo is fixed, Capricorn is cardinal. Mars and Leo wants to show things off and be creative. Mars and Capricorn wants to do things the traditional route. So they can struggle sometimes in the way they get things done. But their Venus is in Taurus. So that is what I mean by the Venus and Taurus. At first, they can even be really attracted to each other. We know Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is linked to beauty or attraction, things of that nature. So these two people are probably really attracted to each other at first. Also in love would be kind of loyal to each other. Like there's a potential there for them to be loyal. But also you have to look at the other energies in order to understand this person. Continued. All right, what about these people? All right, so we have Virgo, Sun in Scorpio. Scorpio and Virgo, that energy tends to work pretty well together in many ways. Virgo is earth, Scorpio is water, so there's already that connection there. Okay. They are sextile. Okay, 2 signs apart. So Virgo and Scorpio can both learn to trust each other sometimes. They don't really look at each other as skeptical as they would another sign because of that self-discipline both of them tend to have. The Moon in Gemini, the Moon in Libra. Both are air moons. So there we go. We have the Mercury in Leo. We have Mercury in Libra. So both of the social aspect of Mercury in Libra and Leo. They will probably have really great conversations. Mercury and Libra won't rock the boat too much because it can be very diplomatic. And Mercury and Leo be more outlandish with what they say, more of the entertainer, not in a way trying to incite anyone, right? And so there's that need there for them to kind of get that attention. But remember, Libra's not right? Libra's a cardinal sign. Libra's not, you guys might understand that. Some people don't understand that. They're like, well, Libra's so nice, and Libra's not threatened by anybody because they're a cardinal sign. And so Mars is in Leo, Mars in Scorpio. Now, they might go about doing things in a different way. Mars in Leo wants to show everybody. Mars in Scorpio wants to control the situation, control the narrative. Mars in Scorpio wants to, do things in a way that maybe, hey, we don't need to tell everybody our business. Why are we telling everybody we're building a house? Mars and Leo's showing pictures online, right, of the house being built. So that's just a small example there. And the Venus is in Cancer and Scorpio. So Venus and Scorpio person is able to love in depth and really get into this kind of like almost soulmate type of love sometimes. Venus in Cancer is, as long as you make them feel comfortable, that relationship can flow. So do you see what I'm talking about? I feel like these people here are way less compatible, even though they have the same Venus sign, these people here, because we do have this flow of energy between these being two water Venuses, and there's other complementary energies in their chart. All right, another example, exception. So a lot of times so what I will say about this, there are general things that when we hear stereotypes about signs, where did that come from? So people say Geminis are flirtatious, Geminis can't be trusted, Geminis are sneaky, or every sign has some type of ridiculous stereotype, right? And that's why I say real astrologers, you'll notice, don't use extremes. You'll rarely see real people saying all of this sign is this way and all of this sign is that way. We might say, hey, my energy doesn't really work well with this sign, but we're not really going to bash signs. So what I say is, I'm not saying I believe this about Gemini, because I know some very faithful Gemini people. Also, society socializes people differently. So it's very possible that it can be different based on male or female, how this energy plays out, because socialization makes certain things more acceptable for certain genders and others, right? But my point being, Gemini has this reputation. Where did it come from? It's an air sign. It's air into Mercury. So Gemini does tend to be a sign that really likes attention in regards to their thought process. It's not about like Leo attention. Gemini needs to be mentally stimulated. So that's why you'll see a lot of them, even the Gemini risings, talking a lot or trying to get information from many different types of people. When you do have the introvert Geminis, they still tend to be obsessed with information in some way. Like they just need to learn and figure things out, and they tend to really want to connect to people in that way. Now, it's different than Libra. Libra wants to actually relate to you. So here's the point I'm trying to make. So this is a Sun and Gemini person. So already I know the stereotype of Gemini being overly capricious and not really stable and is not going to happen in this Gemini, because it's in the 8th house. The 8th house is control. It has control. It's Pluto and Mars. It's strong inner will. It's the introverted version of Mars as opposed to the extroverted version of Mars that we see in Aries. So already I know this Gemini person here, they're going to shine through their information. So they transform themselves through what they learn. So this is a person who's probably not, sometimes some people can say about Gemini, jack of all trades, master of none, meaning Gemini is air. So like it gets so interested in everything that it's hard to settle down and really at one thing because they want to know about everything. And I think that's similar in some ways, maybe not the opposite sign. Sag a little bit, but Sag has more purpose, right? Sag can get distracted as well. So this person already off the bat is not your typical Gemini. Then Venus is in Taurus. So Venus and Taurus, if you looked at my other video, tend to be loyal, dependable, but they need structure. They're willing to wait a long time to get with the right person. They need someone they feel has a foundation or trust. Sometimes they can marry people who they've known for a long time because it has to be something that they feel is sustainable. So that it's in the 7th house of partnership. So now I'm seeing that this person, Venus rules the 7th house. So now I'm seeing this as a really complementary sign in placement. Venus rules the 7th house. Venus is in the 7th house and it's in Taurus, and Venus also rules Taurus. This Gemini is going to be really committed. This Gemini person is typically going to be someone who values relationships and partnerships. Now, they're probably going to have a lot of friends. They're not just going to be obsessed with just their partner, because that Gemini energy needs stimulation and they probably can't get it just from their partner. And their Mercury is in Gemini as well, the 7th house of relating. So their friendships and their moon is in Gemini. So this person would still be a probably social butterfly, talking, having a lot of friends, knowing a lot of different people, having a lot of different insight. Especially if their Mars is in the 5th, Mars and Aries in the 5th house, a public house, an open house. So it's a person who's not really shy. When it comes to matters of love, they are really probably the most stable there in the matters of love. Also, the way that they elevate themselves because their sun is in the 8th house. This is a person that constantly has to be improving their life, and transforming their life in some way. All right, so something resonate that you want to personalize. I love doing chart readings for people. I type up a personal report just for you. I don't duplicate anything that I say for individuals because I do believe people deserve to know about them. I also use my intuitive abilities. That's why no chart I interpret or write about is ever going to look the same. And I also provide you with a video where I show you your chart and I explain visually what your chart means. So my services range. Tarot readings, I have love readings, I have astro readings, I have birth chart readings. So I'm really trying to diversify what I can offer my clients. Again, so please feel free to visit my Shopify. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Amethyst Virgo. You can find me on YouTube, Amethyst Virgo. You can find my blog at amethystvirgoblogspot.com, and I also have another website, amethystvirgo.weebly.com. Thank you for watching.